Auma Obama, come speak to us. I live on CNN. Why are you here today?
I'm here because look at what's happening. Young Kenyans are demonstrating for their rights. They're demonstrating with flags and banners. I can't even see anymore. They're being tear gassed. They're being tear gassed.
We shall not be.
It's been one crazy week in Nairobi as young Kenyans lead demonstrations to denounce President Ruto's very punitive finance bill. A bill that is bound to overtax Kenyans, a bill that is bound to erode many rights, including rights to education and rights to property ownership, such as land. President Barack Obama's sister and her daughter were caught up in this mess in Nairobi. And the question is, can Auma Obama leverage the power of her very powerful brother, no longer president, but nonetheless, her very powerful brother, to bring diplomatic pressure to bear on President Ruto and his regime? And clearly, though President Ruto has now indicated that the bill is withdrawn,
I concede.
the hardline stance still seems to be there, and Kenyans are going back to the streets today. The result of this is that to the international community, Kenya appears to be unsafe, and already visitors and foreign nationals are leaving the country. CNN have done a report with Larry Madowo in Nairobi. Let's have a look at it and share reactions at the end of it. This is vitally important. This is important.
Yes, Max, we are ready. I'm here with Auma Obama, who came to join these protesters. They're mostly young people, Gen Z, who have been raising their voice online against overtaxation, the finance bill that is currently being discussed in the National Assembly. And just as we began to speak, she has been tear gassed. It's deeply uncomfortable. You struggle to breathe. You cannot speak. And she's in this moment where all she has is a banner. She has nothing more. She's unarmed. Like all of the people you see around here, all they have is the phones. That is all they have. And they're getting tear gassed, actively being broken up here in the middle of the capital. Auma, are you in a position to talk to me again?
Try.
Shut up.
I can't believe that these young people are just trying to demonstrate for their rights. I came to join them as a Genoise to tell them that we understand that they need to use their voices, and we're being tear gassed. We're being tear gassed. We have flags and banners, nothing else. Nothing else. These young people have nothing else. Just flags and banners, the Kenyan flag. How can you tear gas your own people? Listen to them. Listen to these children. They're the future. They're 80% of our population. 80%. If they decided to turn against us, they can. And that is what they're doing now. So please, listen to these young people.
You have been involved in the liberation struggle in Kenya for a long time. Have you ever seen a movement like this, a moment like this?
Not like this, because these children are doing it on their own. They're not going with politicians. They came out on their own. These are the young people of our future. They didn't ask, and they say they will win. So we need to listen to them. And we're not fighting each other. Just listen to them. Listen to them.
So what you've just witnessed is the demos that have been going on in Nairobi for the past few days. The government decided to push ahead with a finance bill that was seeking to raise more revenue, and the taxation has just been too much for Kenyans to bear at very difficult economic times. Remember, we came out from COVID, so there is a lot of suffering amongst Kenyans, and the decisions that have been taken by this Ruto regime have not helped. They have not listened to Kenyans, and Gen Zs and millennials have particularly been on the prowl, making the noise, demanding that the draconian bill that was attempting to add new levies.
Don't touch me!
A lot of these guys are kids still in school. Some of the new austerity measures by this government have ensured that so many thousands of kids have dropped out of campus, have dropped out of college, unable to access government loans for their education. Where they used to pay $300, they are now paying upwards of $1,000 to access the tuition for their semesters. So it's crazy.
I participated because in my work, I work for children and young people. In other words, the Gen Zs in my foundation. And also my staff are 60% Gen Zs and millennials. So I had to be there because I have to present the voice of those young people, because that is what my foundation is called, Sauti Kuu Foundation, which means powerful voices. On a personal level, I was there because I also feel strongly that there are items in the financial bill that are not for the benefit of the Kenyan people.
One of the other things that is so punitive in that bill is the attempt to deny Kenyans the opportunity to continue having freehold land. But Kenyans have said that they do not want the bill to go ahead in totality. The result of this is that young Kenyans stormed parliament. Totally unheard of in this country, certainly not in this region. The only other time this has happened in Africa is in Burkina Faso, where Blaise Compaoré, who had deposed his former friend who they took out at the behest of Western powers, he stayed in power for over 20 years. Eventually, Burkinabés said enough is enough. They stormed parliament. Lives were lost, but they razed down their parliament, and Blaise Compaoré fled the country. So he now lives in a neighboring country. So obviously, young Kenyans are taking cue from this, but it's largely something that connects to a pent-up pain, a pent-up anger that successive generations of government have exploited the population, taxing Kenyans, but never giving value on the ground. Right now, the president has been executing austerity measures. But on one hand, while he's doing that, the opulent display of wealth by those in government has obviously angered many Kenyans. You have a head of state who's renovating State House at colossal amounts of money. You have a deputy president who is asking for nearly equivalent amount of money to renovate his palace, honestly, built not too long ago. And then to ask for funds to renovate that is way above the cost of building that. It's ridiculous. So obviously it's budgeted corruption, and Kenyans are feeling the weight of your expenditure, your frivolous expenditure, flying out of the country every other day, hiring government officials for positions that do not exist in law. And obviously the young population is seeing this. And for the older folk who are pacified through religion, through a dictatorship, when there was no information, when internet was still very scant across Africa and across the world really, were unable to stand up against authoritarian rule, especially during the Moi regime. And what happened then is that in that time you could disappear and you'd never be heard of because there was no way out of finding out. Right now, lives have been lost in Nairobi. So obviously this is way beyond anything that is reasonable. And people do not even believe the president when he comes out today to say that he regrets the lives that have been lost and sends condolences to those families. Command responsibility rests with the head of state. In terms of borrowing, the police doing what they did must have had blessing from the president. And if they were errant, the president then needs to call them out, reprimand them, and obviously heads have to roll. Kenyans are not convinced. And the result of this is that to the international community, Kenya is now being seen as a rogue nation because the government has turned rogue. The government has turned rogue towards its own nationals, towards its own citizens, the true sovereigns of any nation state. There's a gentleman at the airport who's now just shown pictures of citizens of other nations leaving the country. And that is now a bad report on us, on the country, because somebody decided to take the law into their own hands, obviously targeting Kenyans. And to think that there were even snipers at certain positions, not realizing that the world we live in today There are gadgets everywhere. There are cameras everywhere. Big Brother is not just America. Big Brother is also the cell phone that we have in our hands. And citizens are using them. Citizen journalism. Citizens are saying enough is enough. Human rights have been abused, and the international community and other nationals are now responding by leaving the country. Not a good image for us, but particularly for Kenyans, it is painful what has happened. We have lost lives that we needed not lose at all. The finance bill should not have cost a single life. These poor decisions will cost this government. We hope they can act right. But the power of the sovereign is being exercised. And the external influence, especially of the West and the lending organizations, has been a big problem. It's the unseen hand in the mess that has happened in the country. Maybe now they've thrown the president under the bus. He has to deal with his own mistakes, his failure as the commander-in-chief, and a man who took oath of office to protect lives and property. But to think right now, at this point, that property is the only thing that matters the most is a tragedy. And a slap in the face of those who are mourning their loved ones. My heart goes out to those Kenyans, the lives that we have lost. We needed not lose those lives. This cannot continue to happen. We've got to make Africa our business. We've got to make Kenya our business. This is Afrocentric. Thank you for taking your time to watch, and check out the rest of the videos. Peace and love. I'm out.
Ingoma lesiphathile inamba mfethu yo cabanga mfethu